Welcome to the final episode of Series 10. We are in the middle of Con Drop Something Fierce, so we're going to try to keep this brief.
First up, we recorded our recap of a catacon. We did it in the car.
It
was good.
The recording.
Ryan's wife was there. It was weird.
Oh my.
Oh, yikes. Yes, we recorded our recap in the car. And we decided that instead of a normal character evolution cast episode, we are going to release our recap audio next week so we can give ourselves a little bit of recovery period, both because of Con Drop and Thanksgiving and also my birthday.
Amelia's birthday.
My birthday. But then we'll be picking right back up with Series 11 the following week.
Hooray. And secondly, if you haven't heard Amelia's bonus content that she just recently released on the One Shot Secret Archive, you should definitely check that out. There is cuteness galore in that episode.
And then send me your feedback because Nate asks me every day what the people on Twitter are saying about him. So let Nate know.
100%. And if you do not have access, you can get access to the feed by becoming a patron at patreon.com/oneshotpodcast.
Folks, we are officially out of reviews.
Sad tears.
Sad tears. But we do want to say a huge thank you to everyone who said hi to us or came to our panel or played games with us over this past weekend when we were at a catacon.
Mm-hmm.
It was an absolutely amazing time, and we were honestly really overwhelmed by the reception we got from all of the wonderful people that we were able to meet up with there.
Yeah, it was just remarkable. It was such a wonderful time with all of you. And I got my first autograph request.
I know, I did too. I was very excited about that, but also real awkward. Like, who, me?
I know, right?
But I did remember to sign the correct name, so that was really big for me.
That's awesome.
It was like, yes, I get to sign my real name.
I'm so proud.
I know.
So listen up next week to our wonderful recap, and since we're both feeling that con drop, we're going to leave it at that. But please check out the show notes and see where you can leave us reviews so we can read your wonderful words and get all giddy and stuff.
We need to have feels.
Please
give us feels.
Exactly. All right. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time we created a group of characters for Traveler. This episode we will be discussing the character creation process. We are very excited to welcome back Ryan of Shadow of the Cabal podcast. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself again, Ryan, for everyone at home? And tell us a little bit about the character you made in our last episode.
Hey, I'm Ryan from Shadow of the Cabal, the Prime Sauce on Twitter. And in our last episode, I created the character Zach Davey, who is a kid who went into a life of crime very early, messed up in that life of crime, and eventually switched out and tried to make a little bit better life for himself by getting a more legitimate job as a courier.
All right. Other Ryan, do you want to tell us about your character?
Yeah, my character's name was Shiara. And she graduated from university, had high hopes of becoming a field, explorer. What was it?
Researcher.
A field scholar, field researcher. And she kind of may have caused an accident or may have brought the heat down on a particular psionic group that she was trying to study and got kicked out of that career. And from there, she tried to go back into her entertainment roots and failed miserably, eventually ending up as a drifter. But at least she had a partner in crime which was Amelia's character.
Yeah, I made Campbell Croft. Campbell went to university and then they failed out and decided to go backpacking across space Europe. And then eventually settled into a life as a, let's say, merchant. I would say maybe more black market kind of, not entirely legal. And now is hanging out with this group of losers.
You love us.
I do. Mm-hmm. Amelia and the Ryans. It's our new band, you guys.
That's amazing. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our segment we're calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
In this segment, we want to talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process and how this system feels compared to others. But first, we'd like to ask each of our guests, whenever we talk to them, how they got into role-playing games in the first place. So, Ryan, how did you get into role-playing games in the first place?
I was in 5th grade, and I remember walking to grade school. And I saw a friend of mine sitting on the ground reading a book that had really cool pictures of like wizards and stuff on it. So I asked him about it. It was his older brother's 2nd edition D&D Player's Handbook.
Nice.
And instantly I wanted to try it out when he described it to me. And we went over to his house after school that day. And his brother ran a game for us. And I've been playing ever since.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
You just found somebody right away. You're like, I got this book. I know what it is. That is a rare story where all of the pieces fit together right away.
Yeah. The guy he was my friend since as early as I can remember. But it was one of those. His older brother was too cool for us or whatever. But I saw his brother let him borrow the book, and he was reading it at school, and I thought it looked really cool. And we both got his brother to run it for us, and then it was 2 weeks later that I tried running my own game, and it was terrible. But I tried.
A for effort.
Yeah.
When you make characters in any game, do you have a specific way that you kind of like to go about it? Do you have a general pattern when you do it, or do you just kind of do whatever?
It really seems that I tend to make characters that have pretty terrible lives.
You do love a good sad boy.
It's not even just necessarily about being a bad boy. I like characters that have bad things that they're trying to work out of. Things that are bad in their past, and the story is the process of getting somewhere better.
Kind of a redemption sort of story there.
Yeah. Or either redemption or just acceptance. Something.
Oh, okay.
Overcoming whatever it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's normally what I go for in whatever I'm making.
Yeah, I feel
Very
like,
cool.
I mean, we've played together a few times, and I feel like we give you crap all the time for just being horrible to your characters.
But in my mind, I'm doing that to give them more and more upward mobility.
That's fair. You can't go up unless you're already down.
It may not seem like it, but I always want my character to end up better than they were.
Really? Because as someone who had to read that epilogue for Shadow of the Cabal,
that was not where I was aiming, but it felt so right.
It did. That was the correct. We won't ruin it because Ryan maybe at some point will listen to it.
I will definitely listen to it. Yeah,
you've
eventually.
Already had half of the cast of the first campaign on here.
It's true. No, Justin's on every episode. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
He's been on every
Justin's
episode
right here.
with us. Justin. Yeah, no, I feel like you do have a tendency to do that, but for the most part, they're not so tragic. They're okay.
I mean, and a lot of times it's of their own making to some degree. I'm sure that's me working out my own stuff.
But I like that in role-playing games. I like being able to mess around with those kinds of really complex and not entirely fun emotional spaces.
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things that RPGs can do.
So then we come to a game like Traveler, where it's hard to kind of rein in what you wanted for your character from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we think character creation in this game stacks up to other systems that we've played?
It's definitely a lot more random. There, you have a lot less say in the character, but you still have a lot of say. There's still a lot of places, even a lot of the events and mishaps are, do you do this or do you do this? And
that's true.
And you pick your career, you might not get it, but you're trying for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like we were able to flavor a lot of it. Like a lot of those roles were still pretty broad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked how this feels more like a simulator for a real individual's life.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than I'm picking this and maybe rolling to see how good it is or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a tool. When you're making a character in D&D or something, you have very little to give you much as far as help in making that character's backstory. You have to go completely on your own. Why are they adventuring? What were they like before they did this? 5th edition's a little bit better with the backgrounds and everything, but...
Yeah, but even those are like more like flavor and tone than really like background. Like they don't tell you anything about who you were before you started doing this.
Yeah. And then and the Lifepath system, it forces you. You have no choice. You have a backstory.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be exactly the backstory you were hoping for, but you have one.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I didn't like about it is it has to be 4-year chunks of time.
Yeah.
That feels a little restricting, but I get it. I understand why they did it.
Right.
And the way we did it is we made it so we all did the same amount of terms, but am I understanding it correctly where you can actually have different people doing different amounts of terms and then starting the game at different ages?
Yeah. So the last time that I ran this game several months ago, I want to say we had one character who did 7 terms and another who did, I think, 5. And I don't remember everybody else, but I think that was the biggest discrepancy was 2 terms apart, which the difficulty with that is then when we were doing this, it was really easy to line up when we were doing our connections, what happened every term.
Mm-hmm.
But, if somebody did 7 terms and somebody did 5 terms, well, that person's 5th term is this person's 7th term. So now we have to work back and line everything up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And so that adds a little bit of paperwork, and it's not wrong. It's not the wrong way to do it, but it's definitely not the easy way to do it.
So I thought that those connections were like a little bit looser, though, that we were kind of able to say a little more like when we felt like it fit. So can you just kind of fudge that a little bit, or does that have to be?
You can. I mean, it kind of depends on how strict you want to go. Like we did some fudging, but at the same time for Zach and Shiara, like the second term, both of our events lined up.
Yeah.
And,
it was during that 4-year period of time that this thing
Yeah.
happened.
And it could have been anywhere in that 4-year chunk.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it seems like this game, compared to other games, there is a lot more of those sorts of small little details to keep track of during character creation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, co-host Ryan.
Yes.
Because I haven't played a lot of Palladium games, like any at all. Isn't there a lot of like random rolling in there too?
Well, yes and no. In a lot of the Palladium games, I'm thinking specifically Heroes Unlimited, and when we get around to covering this, which I hope we do soon.
I know, I really want Jeff and John. I think that they said they were going to, right? I think, yeah. I think so.
And you can actually create a character, I believe, from scratch, completely random, in terms of stats and your class, your education, all that sort of stuff. I think you might still pick your skills.
Okay.
But you can do all sorts of, there's just tons of random tables. But you don't have to do random in everything. You don't have to randomize your superpowers.
Oh, okay. So you have the option to do it either way.
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering how this compared to another game that has a lot of random tables, because like D&D has a couple here and there, but like not really.
And Xanathar's Guide adds a lot to the backstory sort of stuff for your characters with a ton of different random tables, which is really cool.
But those are all optional.
All optional.
Yeah, and L5R has what? Heritage tables, and that's it? There's some real good.
Do you just badmouth L5R in every?
No, but like that's the thing that Ryan and I always kind of go back to is like he always goes back to Heroes Unlimited because that's like his game, and L5R is like my game, and so yeah. I mean, I'm contractually obligated to reference it at least once an episode.
That makes sense.
And I am too until we actually cover the system.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this one does require those random tables. So I guess that does make it a little bit different in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not optional here.
Do you find that frustrating, like when you play this game a lot? Or is it that's just something that you know going in and you just kind of work with it?
I think it's really fun. I think character creation for this is really fun. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason that I threw this out here right away when you first started talking about the podcast.
Yeah, you were like, I have the game for you.
Yeah, because I think out of every game that I've played, this is the most fun experience I've had in creating a character. I do think that in-game, it does create some imbalances that can cause some issues.
Yeah, I can see that.
Do you think it creates some, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like dissatisfaction or like distance from your character too, that you just don't feel really attached?
Yes.
I'm kind of feeling that with my character. I mean, I had obviously a vision going in, like, you know, if everything lined up, I want to do this and this and this, and that'd be really cool if I got there, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But then it was just like, oh, you failed at this. Well, crud. Mm-hmm. Okay, now what? Okay, I got to try something else. Well, you failed at that too. Now you're even more down and out and more out of your plans. Yeah. I think after playing a little bit, I would probably get more into the character.
Right.
But it coming fresh off of it, it feels
you don't feel super passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel a little disappointed, but when we created the connections, I think I got a little bit more into it.
Yeah. And that's so the last time that I ran this, two of the characters, one of them, when he was rolling, he just did excellent. The whole way through, the character got to the top rank in the Navy. I don't remember what it was. And like he went all the way to the top, and then he ended up doing one extra term as like a noble, just as his character kind of putzing around like in his retirement. That's the one who I think went to 7 terms.
Wow.
Another person was dead set. He wanted his character to be a scientist. Failed out of college. I don't care. I'm going to go into the scientist thing. Got in, screwed up. He just constantly was failing throughout the entire thing. And I could tell when running the game that because his character was not what he wanted, he wasn't having as much fun.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, though, is this was the first time any of them had played Traveler. Mm-hmm. They're used to coming in and being able to say, this is the character I'm going to play, and I will now build that character.
Yep. In
Traveler, you have to kind of come in with the mindset of, this is a very broad idea. Let's see what happens.
It's more like this is my character's aspirations in life.
Yeah.
Let's see if they come true.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I was looking through stuff earlier today, the closest to a concept that I bothered to come up with was scientist, like book smart person with no practical skills.
Yeah.
Which is not what I ended up with at all. I ended up with somebody who failed out of university and plenty of practical skills and, did just fine. But it's, having anything tighter than that probably would have led to some disappointment. And I think the sense that I get is that you have to have a group that's really willing to buy into that. And like from the beginning say, I'm going to be fine with whatever I get. I don't care if it's not great. We're just going to roll with it. Because I think anything more than that, is going to lead to those kind of grumpy feelings.
Yeah, and I think I read in the book somewhere that it said you're playing ordinary people thrown into extraordinary situations.
Yeah. Your characters in this are generally not the biggest, the strongest, the best. most well-funded. You're not that.
No.
It's you're trying to make do as best you can, together, working together to try to overcome and just survive.
Do you think that the mechanics of character creation kind of tell players what to expect when they're playing this game, or are they? I mean, it felt like its own mini game.
It really does. I think there's maybe some small degree of showing people things in that there are failures in the game. Mm-hmm. Failures have consequences. If you get into a fight, if you're not ready to win that fight, fights are deadly in this game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of this game is not going to go easy on you. And I think that there's an indication of that in the character creation.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. And I can also see from a more mechanical aspect of character creation, spreadsheets and tables probably play a lot in actually playing the game too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of resource management going on.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can find online somewhere the page that shows the ship that our crew has, and there's a lot of things in there that are important to know. Especially if we're doing a trading thing, we need to know what our cargo space is. We need to know how much it costs per month for us to be going places. We need to know how much fuel we have to use. All of that stuff.
Wow.
Oh yeah, there's a spot right on your character sheet for debt, living cost, monthly ship payments.
Yep.
All that's right out on the front.
Yep. Yeah.
Could even have a pension too.
Yeah.
Yes, if you got high enough. Or if you did enough terms in any one career, you get a pension. In that example I gave from the last game I ran, the military guy, he had a pretty nice pension. The other guy, nothing.
So, I mean, most of character creation is pretty random, though. And play, I'm sure, is not nearly as...
No, the base dice rolling mechanic is pretty much what you guys have already experienced. It's 2d6 plus modifiers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Normal target number for an average difficulty is about 8.
Okay.
But, so for my character with his, I think 2 in pilot spacecraft, usually it would be 2 from pilot spacecraft, and then maybe we're looking at something dexterity based. So I'd get to add my +1 from dexterity. So that's +3. I need a 5 to get that on 2 dice. That's not really that hard.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and I saw some examples and some of the skills, like a really hard skill was 14 or something like that, which you have to have bonuses to even hope to get to.
Right.
That's interesting.
There's you guys have seen kind of the rules and how they work, but if your character is built specifically around a certain thing, you're probably going to be fine with it.
Yeah.
Right.
You just got to make sure that whatever you randomly end up with is what you're doing.
But the system still does give you some ways to mitigate the randomness a little bit.
Oh,
we had the connections where we got 2 skill points from that.
Yeah, and we had the skill package or whatever they're called.
I could have gotten my piloting all the way up to 3 from using our connections if I wanted to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
that's true.
And so if I was dead set, I want to be a pilot. That is what I want my character to be. I can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then how does the process of character creation set us up as players for playing the system? Does it set our expectations at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of as you said before, there's you kind of are coming into this expecting a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of, we need to keep track of all of this stuff. And I think the character creation kind of gives you an idea of that's the sort of game this is, with all of the different things we need to look at.
Yeah, even just the amount of charts and tables. Even though we weren't necessarily keeping track of all of those things in creation, it was pretty clear just from the number of, okay, now go over to this table on this page, and this, it's that kind of game.
Yeah. And I think another big factor of this game, like I said, is you guys we have to work together in this game. We have to work together, and I think that having those connections helps kind of put that in your head that we have to be together. We have to have reasons to be together and to want to work together.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that a lot of modern game design has kind of pulled forward that's a thing that you see all the time in all of those PBTA games too, is what are those connections with people? Yeah. And more games I think are kind of forcing you to do that.
Yeah.
like a collaborative session 0.
Exactly. Which is great. I love that.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing to see in a game that's been around for this long, and that where most of the design mechanics are very much
still pretty
old
archaic.
School. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see like that's a thing that we've adopted in a lot of modern game design that like has been there all along in some form. Maybe it's just buried underneath all of the charts and we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So now this is a thing that we've been talking about for a while, but let's pick the biggest one. Flaws of character creation in the system. We've talked a lot about flaws in this system, but
yeah, I would say the biggest flaw kind of depends on what you're going into it wanting. To a lot of people, the randomness is the biggest flaw.
Yeah,
I get it.
I would say going into the system knowing what the system is, the biggest flaw is the layout of the book.
I don't disagree with you on that one.
Flipping back and forth is a pain.
Yeah.
It really is, especially when you're working off of a PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, just like put links in the PDF so I can click them.
Yeah. Honestly, to me, I think one of the biggest flaws, and it might seem trivial, rolling for your characteristics at the very beginning. I think having a more set starting point just feels better for me. Like most games anymore seem to have gotten away from, used to be in D&D, you roll the 6-siders to get your attributes.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like have...
Yeah.
Okay.
How we did the 2d6 6 times, that whole thing.
So would you want like a standard array then? Or would you want just like in L5R, where everything starts at the same level for everybody? Like everything's a 2.
Or maybe like a point buy system?
Yeah, I would like a standard array or a point buy, one of the two. I probably would prefer a point buy, personally, but, gives you a little bit more variability. But
that sounds like math.
That sounds like math.
It does sound like math.
You should have a point buy system with a standard array.
Yeah.
Well, really, any point buy system has,
Right.
I know.
Yeah. That because I think I've seen it before, and I think it's one thing that is a fairly big flaw is that sometimes you have a person who gets lucky and they roll a 12 and they want to be a noble all the way through, and it's just if social status is the only thing they're really rolling for their things, they're going to be perfect. Just like
real life.
Yeah. But in my games, I don't want that so much. Like if you get your, I'm okay with you having the option to start with your social status at 12, but I want everything else to be kind of low because you have to really, cheese the system a little bit to get that.
Yeah, that's fair.
As opposed to like, it's theoretically possible to have 12, 11, 10. 7, 8, 4, and like. And
I could see that being frustrating, considering that everything else gets rolled randomly. That whether or not you can get into any of these careers is an intellect roll or whatever. So if you are kind of screwed from the start, that that could just be like Ryan over there with his low rolls. Just
failing every career.
Right. Yeah, that could be really frustrating from the beginning. And so it feels a lot less random when that first one is like you're already behind from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I could see the randomness of it and the fact that you can't really know what you're getting at the beginning being a flaw.
Right.
But also that's like the entire system. So, I hesitate to say...
Yeah,
that's a flaw of the system because that's the way it's designed. So really, at that point, it's just, is this what you want? No, this maybe isn't the game for you. That's fine.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Don't play it then.
Yeah. Go play something else.
Right. Go play. I don't know.
Go play your D&D.
Yeah. Your D&D or your. I don't know. I was gonna name another game and then that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'll edit this out. I'll make myself sound smart. Don't worry about it.
That's good.
Editor James, cut that.
There you go. Another one for the bucket. It doesn't really seem like there is any sort of character types. So when we talk about balancing, it almost seems like everybody's kind of on the same level.
Or are they? Because those rolls are dumb.
Right.
It's all, I mean, you start off random from everything.
Yeah, I mean, so like really the only balance then is that we both started with a character sheet and a pencil.
Yeah.
That's like the only balance is that we're all playing this game. We all showed up.
I think there are several things in there that are meant to try to help balance it by the end. You know, the thing we did, the round robin picking skills, specifically picking skills for the type of game that the characters are going to be in. I think that is meant to help balance it at the end of the day. It's not perfect. The game definitely doesn't seem like it was made specifically to be the most balanced thing in the world. But it also kind of depends on the referee, their planning, their ability to go with it. You know, with our group, my character is the only one who has any sort of combat. If the referee was to come in and say, all right, guys, you guys are going into this thing and you're attacking a group of mercenaries.
Yeah.
Okay,
bye,
cool.
you two.
I'll science at them.
I guess I'm the only one who might make it out of this alive.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, or on the other side of that coin, you've got somebody that maybe they want to put all of their stuff into combat, and then the referee is running a completely diplomatic game.
Right.
Now what are you going to do?
Yeah, and that's kind of where you need to more or less communicate pretty early on, you know. If everyone wants to play a military game, cool, let's make sure everyone knows ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because there are lots of points where you're picking those skills, though.
Yeah.
Even with the random rolls, there are a few times where you kind of just get whatever you roll, but you are most of the time with the skills picking from a few options. So you're still kind of, as long as you know ahead of time.
Even kind of based on the careers you pick.
Yeah.
You know, if we were going to be doing a combat based thing, we'd probably be looking more at the military careers. You know,
we wouldn't have picked scholars and
exactly. You don't pick a scholar as your career.
Yeah. Well, plus when you make those connections, you can pick any skill.
So you can try to balance yourself to what you're doing, no matter what.
Yeah. I think it's balanced in some ways and not in others, and most of the ways that it's not balanced are just the pure randomness of it. It's from that very first roll. I think you're right. The more I think about it, the more I think that like a point buy or a standard array would really fix a lot of those issues. Call us, Mongoose. We have opinions. So when you are creating NPCs for this game, because it's a game you've run before, please tell me that you don't have to do all of that for NPCs.
No.
Okay.
No. Generally, the advice the book gives is, you know, what is this NPC going to be used for? Well, if this NPC is, you know, a mercenary that you're fighting, here's how powerful you want him to be. Give him a couple ranks, maybe in this skill, give him some in this skill. None of the other, he probably has ranks in other skills, but they don't matter. So just focus on the things that are going to matter.
The things that are actually going to come up in play.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if this mercenary has science archaeology, you know?
Yeah.
That maybe they do. Maybe that's something they learned early on, but who cares?
He went to university and he had a best friend. How dare you?
Exactly.
This mercenary was a person.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of focus on the things that are important for that person as a part of the story.
Yeah, that's good, because otherwise it could be, no. Okay.
Yeah, very overwhelming.
Yeah. It was like, sorry guys, you're just going to fight the same NPC over and over again. And just like, now we're on to Fred number 47.
You guys are assaulting a cloning facility?
Yes, correct.
That's amazing. All right, on to one of my favorite questions. Let's go ahead and discuss the group's cohesion. How does our group, do we think, currently gel mechanically with the system, and would we fare well in a typical session in the system?
I mean, I think the group gels really well. I think, you know, that's part of how the system works, is we had to figure out how we work together.
Yeah, I think narratively we're on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in our design, we kind of were looking at it as, you know, oh, you're doing astrogation, I've got piloting, so let's, you know, that will work with how our characters narratively work together, and it also works mechanically.
Yep, and I believe we have 2 medics.
Yep.
I know I've got medic, and
I thought Amelia took.
I do.
yeah, Amelia's
I have a rank.
yep, character has medic too.
Mm-hmm.
2 pilots, 2 astrogators, and 2 singers. So, we got our bases
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Is a couple pilots, a couple of singers, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Now you got a game.
Yeah, I mean, between the group, I think we all have some level of usefulness
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
whatever it is we're going to do.
Yeah. And it does feel like we would probably be sticking to a less combat heavy
Right.
sort of game, either some intrigue or just trying to get our finances in order.
And so in the game, there's, there are tables for even if you're doing trading and you're traveling, random things happen. Here, maybe somebody snuck aboard your ship, or
Color me very surprised that random events happen.
You got cholera.
And so there's still like even a game about just trading. There can be action. There can be things like that.
Mm-hmm. And then your response to the action depends on how you want to take care of it.
Yeah.
And how cruel your referee is.
Yep.
Yeah. How cruel can you be as a referee?
I mean,
like, they set the difficulty levels for things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, this game is very, very much a reflection of the mid to late 70s that it grew out of. You can be so cruel that why would anybody even play with you?
Yeah.
You could be there.
I mean, you've got full control over pretty much everything aside from the player's actions, right?
Yeah. So the referee could just first session, pirates are attacking our ship, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. And unless I can roll well enough in piloting to get away, if they board us, all right, I guess we're done with these characters.
Yep.
But at that point, why are you even playing the game?
Well,
right.
I mean, so I think though, like even D&D has like challenge ratings, like suggested things. Yep. So does this have some of that? Because there's not really a whole lot of a setting here either. Like if you're making up your own planets and you're making up your own situations, and like if you can determine the tech level of something and how rare things are, and like, my goodness, you could really mess somebody's life up.
Yeah. So basically in the book, there's a section on kind of how to build NPCs that might be an issue. And it really only comes down to about four categories. Green, average, experienced, and elite.
Okay.
But there's nothing to really tell me, like if I'm running this game for our group, there's nothing on here that tells me this is how to know if your group is green versus average. So you kind of have to know the system a little bit.
Just kind of a gut check.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
there's nothing in there to say like, hey, you should throw, it should have like this level of skills if your players are at whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you have this many people. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you could just really do a lot of damage. So if you want to be the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
This might be the game for you.
If you're looking to run a game and you just hate your players.
You don't even want to have friends anymore, and they're just really taking up a lot of your time.
Especially because, like, if they come into this and they get emotionally attached to the character because they built all that backstory, man, they're going to hate you if you just mess them up right away.
How do you get emotionally attached to these characters, though? Like, that's the thing is, like, I mean, I guess you can, like, if you make enough connections and stuff, but I feel like maybe...
Well, I think one part of it is you kind of have to, after you do the events, start to build that story. Mm-hmm. Start to actually look at it as like, well, Zach, right out of high school, he got in with the wrong crowd, and for several years he was just like trying to impress them and everything, and then he, a while later when that job goes wrong, he realizes that these guys don't have his back, blah, blah, blah. If you start building that story, I think it helps you really attach to that character.
And I think some of it probably fills out like more as you do a couple more rounds too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the system as a whole, and how you feel like it plays and how it lends itself to character development. Not necessarily like advancing in level, but how you kind of grow as a person. We talked a little bit earlier about how skills work, and I like that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as character development, I think you do your hand is forced in doing some character development before the game starts. With this more so than other games.
I know mine did.
Yeah. So like, you already have to be in the mindset of developing a character before the first actual session happens.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to, I think in this game, it's a lot more role playing for the development. It's the way the system works, the way the rules work. There is a lot of downtime where you can role play. You don't have to, but any trip from one system to another where you're jumping is going to be a week.
Yeah,
it's a week of us three just hanging out in our ship.
Yeah.
Doing whatever. And you can abstract it. You can just be like, all right, you guys spend a week. We're here now. Or you can kind of sit down more and, well, what are you guys talking about? What are you guys doing?
Well, that's kind of interesting because one of my favorite podcasts, actual play podcasts out there, the Redemption podcast.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of episodes where they're traveling between star systems.
Yeah.
And they're on downtime on the ship, and they have these amazing character interaction moments.
Those are my favorite episodes of Campaign, the bottle episodes, where they're just like where they're doing their mission debriefs.
Yeah. And that's available in this as well. It kind of comes down to, it's not enforced by the rules that you have to have those sessions.
Yeah.
But it's supported by the rules.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I like that there's like time built in for that.
And that will also, when we get to the talk about advancement, if we're going to talk about that more, that can tie in there as well.
Right.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into our character advancement segment and take it up a level.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So now finally we're going to talk about how advancement and leveling up works, which apparently doesn't in this system.
There's no experience points. None.
Again, why am I here? I'm just here for the points. I want
those numbers.
The sweet
I gotta put
XP.
those numbers.
Just get those numbers up.
Yeah.
Sweet gains.
Give me more numbers so I can write bigger numbers on my sheet.
But yeah, so ultimately with advancement, you have two main things you're looking at. You're raising your skill by training. And to do that takes a number of weeks. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's a number of weeks based on what you currently have in that skill. And it doesn't have to be consecutive. Like, you can have a break in between.
Okay.
So
I see there's a spot on the character sheet that says how many weeks you have out of however many weeks it takes.
Exactly. Yes. So you put down on there, you put down what skill it is. And if you need 3 weeks to train pilot, after the first week, you would put 1. And once you get up to 3, there's a roll. You still have to roll to see if your training was successful in improving you.
Of course, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And if it does, you have increased that skill by 1, and you can start training something else.
Oh man.
And so that's one of the options for those week-long trips.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you can still include both of those. You can have, my character is mostly practicing on flight simulators, but we have a scene where we're at dinner together.
Yeah, because you're not doing that 24/7.
Exactly, yeah. And like, when you're in the middle of a jump, you don't really need to be in the cockpit the whole time. So it's just kind of just do your thing.
So in a typical session, like, are you just doing kind of like one job, or how does the timing on that? I mean, I'm sure it depends on the group and the situation. And how much role playing you do.
Right. The last session that I ran, the entire session. No, I'm sorry. It was 2 sessions, and both sessions, the entire story took place in the span of 1 jump.
Oh,
it actually took place in the middle of the jump because it was that they were transporting people, and there was an attempted hijacking while they were doing that. Okay. And when you're in a jump, you can't get out of it. You're just there. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Just stuck in your jump tunnel.
Pretty much, yeah. Huh. I think it's like you surround yourself with. It's like, I don't think it's anti-gravity, but it's something like
science. I don't know.
Yeah, warp bubble sort of thing,
like a wormhole or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But so yeah, it kind of all depends on what the group and the referee want to do. It can be one session is a single mission that's a jump there and a jump back. It could be a session is several jumps, or it could be a session is not even a jump.
Interesting.
You can do entire sessions in a city, doing things there.
Well, it sounds like if you get in too much debt, you might lose your ship, and then you have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of games lay out, and again, because this one doesn't use XP, it's not quite the same, but a lot of games sort of lay out like the expected advancement based on how much time you're playing. And, like this many XP per hour of play.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's always a rough estimate based on what you like. If your players are spending the whole time shopping, like you're not going to give them as much XP unless you're a really good GM and you know that that's the point of role-playing games.
And you know that all you're really supposed to be doing when you're sitting on that table is discussing the color of the kimono that you want.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh, I have so many pinned. It's going to be great. Hey, look, in our last game of Spire, we went like thrift shopping so that we could look like the most hipster drow ever. It was very good.
Perfect.
So, exactly. Amazing. That's why you play. But because there's no like XP to time ratio in this, like, it's just really like wildly open how much you advance?
Yeah, pretty much. Especially because, if I'm focused on trying to get my piloting up, that's going to take several weeks. If you're focused on trying to get a skill from 0 to 1, that I think it takes 1 week. So if you could do 3 skills from 0 to 1, maybe in the time, I don't remember the exact amounts, but in the time it takes me to do 1, though, you could do several up a step.
Do you have to do a skill from nothing to 0? Or is it automatically nothing to 1?
I do believe you have to go from nothing to 0.
That makes sense.
It's the last time that I ran it that we weren't doing advancement because things interrupted. So it's been a little while since I've done too much.
You don't have this book memorized?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I mean,
we'll allow it.
Yeah, it makes sense because you if you don't have anything, even a 0 in a skill, you get -3 unless you've got the Jack of all trades. Now, if I was a referee, I would say if you had Jack of all trades at 3, then you're automatically 0 in everything.
I mean, I wouldn't be against that ruling. I don't think that's how
I know.
Yeah. That's
rules.
I would be amazed to see somebody get Jack of all trades to 3. It's pretty rare to get that.
Yeah, because you don't really get that one from
right,
anything.
and you explicitly can't get it for connections.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question.
Yeah, and it's you have to like roll it in the table. And,
Exactly.
Can you increase it? Like, can you practice Jack of all trades?
I'm not actually sure. I would have to look that up.
That's a good question.
Maybe.
Like you just watched a lot of Discovery Channel while you were in.
I just want to study everything.
Yeah. Look, I fell down a Wikipedia hole.
My gut says no, but I can't.
It doesn't make sense narratively.
Exactly.
I'm going to practice everything during this like 5-week period, and then I have to roll against everything to see if I can do everything better.
Yeah. And the other thing, though, with character advancement is skills are not the only thing on your sheet. You also have the characteristics. The only reliable way to raise those is augmentations, which are real expensive. So, got to get money.
Sense. It all comes back to money in this game.
It all comes back to money.
Okay.
Or if you want a better ship, which is not a bad move, or better equipment. Equipment matters.
Yeah.
All of that comes down to money.
Well, it makes sense. If you get a better ship that has more cargo room, and if you're running more cargo, then you can add more things to your spreadsheet, and then...
And also bigger ships, there are crew requirements for things, and you have to start worrying about payments for NPCs. You got to pay
NPCs.
Yeah.
And now you've got a whole new spreadsheet, for the NPCs and how much you paid them.
There is a separate, basically a character sheet for your ship that includes a lot of things.
Although now you can actually have a simulation of hiring your crew as like you're the HR department.
Yeah.
You get to negotiate their salaries.
Yeah.
Why?
Wow. that sounds like so much garbage.
Yeah, doesn't that sound fun, Amelia?
You know what though? Like with the right group, it could be. Like
Yeah.
with the
It really
right, like
could
if you
be.
were playing with the right group of people,
Yeah.
I feel like this would be like not bad as like a play by post kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you have like 85 Slack channels that you can keep track of this stuff in.
Oh gosh.
You know, like I mean, trying to imagine like sitting around a table mathing all of this out just feels kind
Right.
of meh.
So I've never done a long campaign of it. I've normally done, build characters, maybe 3 or 4 sessions at most.
Mhm.
I feel like for a long campaign, there's a ton of stuff that people have to do when you're not sitting at the table. You've got somebody, whoever's in charge of the ship and maintenance might be on an off day just going through the math of how much is it going to cost to do all of this,
Yeah,
Mhm.
keeping track of all of that inventory stuff is a between session activity.
Yeah.
Because, man, scheduling's hard enough without taking an hour to figure out how much fuel costs.
Yeah.
Is there a skill for like mathing stuff as characters?
I think that's just being smart.
I mean, like broker might work. Broker, I think, is a
Yeah.
lot of the trade stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd probably be the most.
Yeah, because
applicable.
I'm trying to think of like, okay, if a player's really good with spreadsheets and stuff, but their character's dumb as rocks, they would have to almost kind of be like doing these calculations for the smarter characters in the group that have these skills.
Yeah. I mean, there's also in universe, you can always just assume computers, things like that,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
The ship has a computer. You can probably factor it in and have it tell you, oh, you owe this much this month.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, thanks, computer.
Yeah, you can hand wave
Yeah.
most things. It's the future.
That's the future.
The bank emails you, which is not exactly how it works in Traveler.
I'm sorry, do they not have email? Do they still use faxes in Bing?
Faster than light communication doesn't exist in Traveler.
Did you say Bing?
Bing. Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Tanner's character in our last Shadow of the Cabal campaign was very tech illiterate and often requested to Bing things
Oh, that's amazing.
and to fax things to his phone. Checking out my Zune.
Wow.
So wait,
Wow.
faster than light communicate? I'm sorry, are there space carrier pigeons? I have questions.
So that is basically what Zach did for the last term. That's what a courier is. They take letters.
Oh my god, what kind of
That is also
dumb game is this?
that is also a valid cargo type for when you're playing the game.
Wow.
Basically letters, or I mean, they're not paper letters, they're digital things, but
Right.
because you can't just send communication through like some faster than light waves, the fastest way to get from one system to another with a message is literally on a ship with a jump drive.
Okay,
That makes
cool.
sense.
We can travel faster than the speed of light, but we can't. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
Can't even figure out quantum communication. Come on.
I know. How stupid are they?
Just entangle some stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
Just
Duh.
just entangle some stuff. Great.
That's
Great.
science.
That's just science. It's fine. Oh, okay. Great.
So, do you think it would be beneficial then to have character advancement in mind during character creation?
No.
Yeah.
You can't.
There's
You can't even
only-
have character creation in mind during character creation.
There's only one way that I can think of having character advancement in mind during character creation, and that
Okay.
is putting high values in your intellect and education,
There you
because those two limit the total number of skill points you can have.
That makes sense.
So that is about the only way you could actually factor in advancement in character creation
But
that I'm
that's a
aware
good
of.
thing to know, though, right up front.
Yeah,
to
that
say,
is
Sure,
a very
yeah,
good
yeah.
call out. Yeah.
But I think it doesn't, if we're making these characters and we already know it's going to be 3 sessions, who cares? We don't need to know that.
yeah.
If we're making these characters and it's, hey guys, I'm going to run a long running campaign with you, then I owe it to you to tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although, I mean, it's interesting too, because that's like the first thing that you pick before you know anything about what you're going to end up doing too.
Yeah.
So like, I wanted to pick my intellect as a higher one because I was going to make a nerd because it's what I do.
Mm-hmm. That's what you are.
It is. Mm-hmm. But that's not what I ended up with anyway. So like, I feel like those things did not matter at all. Like where I put those
right off the bat, yeah.
points. But I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe because I did Drifter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't feel that the fact that my endurance was particularly low really mattered.
Well,
that's because you succeeded at everything.
Yeah.
I say that with such disdain.
I mean, it definitely can matter. I mean, a +1 or a -1 could be a pretty big difference in some of these roles,
I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess just because it didn't for our 3 terms apiece, and like the terms that I picked were all things that were pretty kind of based on things I was good at.
Yeah, that's
for the most part. So like,
I suppose if your points are all in like strength and endurance, you're not going to go for an entertainer career.
Yeah. Like, I think you might have been the only one who did something that had a role with a distinctly negative anywhere in there. Like I think it was a survival or an advancement role.
Mm.
I think I had one too, yeah.
Okay. And that's, if you're trying to cheese the system, you can look at that and say, oh, my character has a plus in this and a plus in this, and that has an advancement of this, and
Yeah.
If you roll well enough on those first 6 stats.
That's true as well, yeah.
Oh, buddy.
I was satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, it was still fun. Like, I don't know. I don't know how attached I would be to this character playing, but I always kind of feel that way in games that like it takes me a little bit to get a feel for who the character is. So
I actually throughout this conversation have decided that I would be very attached to this character because I'm kind of invested in building them back up.
Oh, you're playing a Ryan character.
I know. What happened?
The Ryan has become the Ryan.
And the circle is complete.
Wait, if he's becoming me now too, am I just character creation cast at this point?
No, everyone is me. Because you are me. And if that Ryan is you, then everyone is me and I am everyone.
That's just math.
This is weird.
That's just science.
I don't like this. I don't like this anymore.
This is my show now.
I want off Mr. Bones' wild ride.
Well, good news. We've reached the end of our episode. What a great segue. Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any last points that you want to make about this game before we?
No, I think we've got
we've done
pretty
enough.
well covered. I think you've bashed it enough for me.
Okay.
It
I don't
hurts.
mean to. No, like it was super interesting. I would have to play it out to but it's very different from anything that we've done before on this show, or certainly anything that I've played. Like, it was cool.
It reminds me of those micromanaging games, like Master of Orion or Civilization, things like that, where you have to nitpick all the little details.
Yeah.
And stuff. That's kind of the feel I'm getting that we might get from actually playing the game.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
And it's one of those things where that is one of the main ways to play it, or you can play it, kind of not focus on that stuff so much and just play it as more of a traditional space RPG if you want. But I don't think it's as good for that. I think there are
throw out the debt.
Yeah, I think there are probably better games if that's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it feels... You can play the game without those things, but it feels like it just wouldn't be as rich.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of flat.
The world building seems pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that's the thing that we really didn't get to look into much, but there's a lot of tools in there for kind of creating the world that seemed really cool.
Yeah.
And
I really like that.
We'll put a link to the planet thingy in our show notes too, because that was fun to just like refresh over and over again.
Yeah.
Because if you're like at work and you just want a screen you can refresh over and over.
Yeah. Just
I got a site for you.
Look at random worlds and be like, oh, that's an interesting world.
Yeah. We could go there and do a thing.
Yeah.
We could do a science.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming and talking about this game with us, for suggesting this weird game. Do you want to remind everybody where they can find you and what you are up to?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as the Prime Sauce, and I am on the podcast Shadow of the Cabal, which is an actual play podcast focusing on high drama, usually Legend of the Five Rings, but sometimes in hiatuses on other games.
Yes. We branch out every so often.
Yeah.
And we have now fulfilled our obligation to mention Shadow of the Cabal in this episode, along
Yep,
with every
there we
other
go.
episode.
When you have me as the guest, you don't need to worry too much about that obligation.
That's true.
Exactly.
Just need Tanner to let me out of the basement, man.
I know. It's cold down here.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for sitting down with us. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts and guests, or even some of our character sheets. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you like the systems discussed and wish to purchase them, links to the products can be found in the show notes. Also, check the notes or the website for cool stuff to go with each character, such as dice or mixtapes. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
I can't have all these windows. God.
All language.
Professional.
I can close time.gov.
You can close time.gov.
Yep.
Wrong show.
Yeah, because
Don't need it.
Nope.
we don't need it.
Okay, and then a reminder that
professional.
Ryan doesn't like swearing, so even though I said I was a
All language.
fucking professional,
I'll try to keep it under control.
thank you.
Yes, please. You're first.
No, you're orange.
No, because remember we
He
swapped
switched it.
Oh God, no, I can't do this. The colors are sacred, and you
All language.
with the colors.
So many colors.
All language.
with the colors.
Fine. Okay. Fine.
Okay, I know it's fine. No, it's too late now. We're starting.
Okay.
Okay,
You're orange in part one.
welcome to
All language.
welcome to this
All language.
fucking show. Okay, game face, gentle spirit. Okay, get all the way. Are we all good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Ryan, are you good?
I don't know how we're going to get through this.
Okay.
Okay.
Deep breaths.
Well, that's a good waveform right there. All right.
Core book when?
Core book when?
Any day now. Any minute now.
I live so close to their headquarters. I can just go pick it up.
Break into the Fantasy Flight headquarters.
Yeah.
Get me my book.
All right.
Okay.
We don't condone that sort of
All right.
stuff
So,
here at Character Creation Camp.
right? Offline. Ryan, go get me that book.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a bug in here.
Oh no.
I know. It's really bugging me.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
right. Yay, we did it. Stop record.
That's 3 episodes.
Stop recording.
I can't get to my Audacity. Stop.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs. Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like System Mastery.
System Mastery is a delightful stroll through the history of role-playing games. Except the games are terrible, and the hosts are real jerks about everything. Join hosts Jeff and John as they explore the weirdest games ever made to talk about what worked, what went wrong, and which Silverhawk was the best. It was Hot Wing, don't even add us. Find their shows at systemmasterypodcast.com or oneshotpodcast.com.
Finally,